This would be more of a great hedge opportunity. When it comes to winning it all, it seems like the cream rises to the top there, and it's really hard to beat one of the better teams in the nation. So like I like a team like Grand Canyon. So, and by the way, I bet them right away when the line came out, thinking the line was going to move so big. It really didn't overmove. I mean, you could still get this line now. So the team's coached literally by a legend on Grand Canyon, Bryce Drew. And let me just tell you, he's gone from hitting one of the most famous buzzer beaters in the tournament in tournament history to now being one of the most successful non-power conference coaches in the country. This team also has tournament experience from last year. If you remember, they knocked out a really good St. Mary's team. And I like this long shot plus with the points and a real chance to even win outright. And by the way, when I say that, I don't get the chance to say this on too many shows. So when I bet a team like that, I'll like to bet maybe, let's just use a small term here, $100 on the team, but I'll also sprinkle 5 or 10 grocery dollars on the money line. So 5 or 10 little bucks, just in case. Find your best money. Make sure you're shopping for lines too, guys. I'll tell you right now, those little half a points mean so much in basketball, especially around the key numbers of 2, 3, and 5. But in this situation, yeah, same thing here. You want to shop, maybe even sprinkle a little bit on Grand Canyon first half line. I'm big on betting first halves on these type of games too, because these teams come out so pumped up in the first half against some of the better teams, and they probably. If I had a chance to bet every single game in first half, that's like this, one of these real big dogs, I would bet all the first halves too. So there's one of my long shot teams, and I'm going to go with Yale here. Everyone remembers this team as a big bracket buster last year when they beat Auburn in the first round. Sick, so totally sick. I think they have a great chance to do it again this year versus Texas A&M. They have a great guard, including the Ivy League Player of the Year, Besman Bang. And if you're looking to advance versus Texas A&M in your bracket, I'll tell you what. You got to be careful of a team like Yale. So I like betting these teams where America just doesn't know about them. In other words, everyone's coming to Vegas. They're all pumped up, March Madness. They're not, well, maybe because of last year knowing Yale, but they're not going to be pumped up to bet Yale against Texas A&M. So I like doing that. Make sure you shop your lines, because I'm looking on my line screen here. There is a couple of 11s out there still. On Grand Canyon. So just to let you guys know, you have to shop for lines. Yale here, though, I bet Yale plus 7.5 when the line came out. It went to 8. So every single time, I get surprised by things like this. Usually I'm on the right side of the line. Right now you could still get 7.5. I wouldn't take less than 7, though. But, sometimes, there's some setups and manipulation out there. When I seen that 8, I went to go bet the 8, and it went to 8-20. I just passed, and I kept my 7.5 bet, though. But there you go. There's your first round bracket buster. Iowa State. I'm going to give you Iowa State to avoid. This team really looked like a potential Final Four team mid-season. However, injuries have really hurt them, and they'll be without their best all-around player, Gilbert, and they have not been playing great this basketball season, especially like this last month, I should say. The committee still gave them a 3 seed. I understand that's based on their resume. That's going to happen. But they're a team I'd stay away from betting on, and a team maybe even to keep out of your. I don't want to say this first round's a tough one, but keep out of your deep brackets for sure. So everyone loves brackets. I understand. I'm only doing that if I can make money. There's a lot of free contests out there. A lot of great bracket contests. I will fill out a bracket, but there's my team to avoid.
No, nothing. We fired absolutely no bets so far, except Vanderbilt. Already took Vanderbilt in March Madness. I told you, that's all everybody's doing right now, crunching the numbers and looking for sides and totals to take advantage of. They'll start coming in throughout this afternoon and more into this evening. Right. But the only game we got down on is Vanderbilt. Answer a couple of the questions since I've been on a little bit early. Long shot, you want to look at Gonzaga. You definitely want to look at Gonzaga at 50-1. This team's so much better than their record reflects. And just simply look at the point differential. That's what's key. So those games, they lost a lot of tight games, but they were able to also blow out some really, really good basketball teams. So you want to look at them. You definitely want to avoid the Kentucky. You want to avoid the Wisconsin. They're like number 3, I believe, in their brackets. Neither of those teams are even top 10 material. But like I said, a nice long shot is Gonzaga, Kentucky, Wisconsin. You want to avoid those. Vanderbilt in the first game to beat St. Mary's. I think they're about a 4-point dog. That number is still available. And if you want to win your pool, it's simple. If you have a small pool, like if you're in a pool with like 10, 20 bet other players, then you just simply got to pick the higher ranked team. Don't make it harder than it needs to be. That's all you have to do. They win about 71% of the games. The higher ranked team wins. So 2 out of 3 times you're going to pick the right side by just picking the higher ranked team. Doesn't matter what the point spread is. Look at the higher ranked team. And if you're looking for the national championship, don't try to go contrarian. Unless you're in a pool with a lot of people, then you obviously have to do those things. But by simply taking the higher ranked team and sticking to a number 1 or number 2 to win the national championship, chances are you're going to win your bracket pool or at least finish in the money by not trying to make it harder than it needs to be. Again, if you're getting into those ESPN pools with millions of players, that's a whole different story.
To me, they are the most undervalued top seed in the tournament. You know, Ken Palm has them as a top 10 team, the number 7 team. They have a top 10 offense. The defense has struggled a little bit. It's still top 37, but they are also a team that is excellent making free throws. They're number 45 in the country. They play very good three-point defense. They're a very good three-point offense. All that added up is Texas Tech is a team that can advance. And remember, when you're betting a future like this, it's okay to say, hey, if I can get to the Final Four, I'm going to start hedging off. You don't have to win the national championship to bet a national championship future, but I think Texas Tech gives us some value. Oh, Colorado State beats Memphis. Done. Simple. No team was hotter than Colorado State. We played them every game in the Mountain West tournament. They had won 7 straight prior to going into the Mountain West. And listen, the Mountain West Conference, do not look past it. It is actually as strong from top to bottom as the ACC is this year. And in fact, if Duke wasn't in the ACC, the Mountain West Conference would be higher. So when you get through Nevada, Utah State, and Boise State and win those games and cover them all and win by double digits in almost every game, it's a team that I think can go far. At least win round 1, perhaps round 2. Not sure if they can get to round 3, but they are a very talented team. Well, you know, I played against UConn once in the tournament, but to me, I think UConn is completely overrated. So I am looking to fade the Huskies. You know, anytime you're a national champion, you're going to get a lot of love, a lot of Joe Public money. Well, when you're a back-to-back national champion, yeah, they are only an 8th seed, but, you know, they got through Villanova and then they lost to Creighton in game 2. You know, their pace is okay, but they turn the ball over on offense. They don't turn the ball over on defense. Those are 2 things we've never seen with the UConn teams that won. When you're 178 on offense and 291 on defense, giving turnovers away and forcing turnovers, you're not going to be a team that I'm going to back. They shoot a lot of threes. They don't play good 3 defense. So if they come up against a good 3-point shooting team, it's a team I'm going to be looking to fade. Maybe against Oklahoma. I'm not that high on Oklahoma, but if they advance, certainly I'm going to be fading them.
18 of the last 20 national champions were top 6 right now in the Ken Palms. On Selection Sunday, a top 6 team has won 18 of the last 20 national titles. So right away, we can eliminate the other 62 teams, 90% certainty. Let me run those over real quick for you. Right now, it's Duke, Florida, Houston, Auburn, the top 4 seeds, not a surprise. And then it's Tennessee and Alabama. They're the two seeds that are in the top 6. So I got to go outside of that if I'm going to take a long shot. But there is one I like. I've talked about on some shows, including last night, and it's Clemson, who is only a 5 seed. They're 18th in the Ken Palms. I see them right now at FanDuel as high as 100-1. I think Clemson is worth a flyer at 100-1 for several reasons. First of all, well-coached team. Brad Burnell is one of the best coaches in college basketball. He took over for Jerry Wainwright in the early 2000s at UNC Wilmington. And if you recall, Wilmington was one of those mid-major teams that used to make nice little runs and upsets in the conference tournaments and then the NCAA tournament out of my CAA. Went to Wright State, and then last year at Clemson, he took them to the Elite Eight for the first time ever. And this year's squad is better on paper. They've got better metrics, and they've got the experience. A couple other things I like about Clemson as well is I talked about how it's usually a top 6 team. Well, here's something else that's almost a certainty. 20 of the last 22 teams have been top 15 defense. I think 19 of the last 22 have finished top 9 offense. And now that's the final ranking right after 6 more games. Clemson right now is 24th and 16th. So if they win out, they're going to be up there defensively, maybe not top 10 offensively, but pretty close. And the final thing I'll point out is they play extremely slow, 327 tempo. That is always so dangerous in the NCAA tournament, especially in the second and fourth rounds when teams only have one day to prepare. So they play slow. You know, Loyola Chicago, Butler, some of those teams I mentioned earlier, they were slow half-court teams. Yep. Clemson has the make it at 100-1. I think they're legit. If you really want to find a bracket buster, my recommendation would be to take a team that shoots a lot of threes, and then you've got a flyer of a chance in any given day to, you know, win a couple. When you get teams that don't shoot threes, the better team's going to always win, right? When you get two teams that like play fast and score down low, you're not going to beat Alabama. You know, back in the day, Gonzaga, UNC, Kansas. So in order for the Cinderella story to happen, they usually have to get very hot from three-point range. And there's so many teams that take threes nowadays that is obviously possible. With that metric in mind, I'll just look at three-point rate, which is a percentage of shots teams take from three, and you know, see which one of those teams maybe we think has a chance to do it. You look at some of the teams right now in the tournament that take a lot of threes. UC San Diego, a 12 seed, they're 8th in the nation. They take half their shots from three-point range. Creighton does as well. Creighton's the 10th most in the country. They're a 9 seed. We all know that 12 beats a 5 almost every year. Problem I have with UC San Diego, and by the way, I had a strong best bet winner Saturday in the Big West Final. I gave it out as a free play here as well. I am a believer in that team, but it seems like they become a little bit of a public darling. But once again, if UC San Diego gets hot from 3, they could make some noise. Some other double-digit seeds that are up there, Wofford, Liberty's a 12 seed also. They take 48% of their shots from 3. You know, and we do normally see a 12 seed do it. Something else I want to point out, though, is that the play-in round, which is tomorrow and Wednesday, we almost always every year see one of those 11 seeds that wins go to the Sweet 16 and win another game. In fact, when it started in 2011, VCU went all the way to the Final Four the first year they had the play-in round.
Yeah.
Nobody thought UNC should get in. And guess what, Prez? There's one team ranked lower in the KenPom and the net ratings than UNC, and that's San Diego State, who they're playing. So the two teams that should not be in play each other. Hey, if you want a flyer, take the winner of the UNC San Diego State team game and do it later in the week after you know the winner. Fill out your brackets with it, because a lot of people put their brackets in on Monday and Tuesday and won't use this game. And once again, if you get lucky, one of these teams has a very good chance probably of going farther than you think, because it seems like year in and year out, the team nobody thought should get there ends up getting there and getting it done. 3 blue bloods to avoid that will not win the national title. First of all, I talked about those pace ratings, how it's always a top 10 offense, top 15 defense, right? Well, it's usually a top 6 team as well. So first of all, let's talk about some of these top 6 teams right now. Alabama, only 32nd on defense. They were 100th last year. They did make the Final Four, but they're the fastest paced team in the country. Normally, it's a bottom 2/3 paced team outside the top 100 that wins the whole thing. Bama's the fastest, so I just don't think they're going to win it this year either, even though they're one of those top 6 teams. So of the top 6 that have won 18 of the last 20, that would be the one I'd probably cut if you were trying to shorten that list a bit. The 3 blue bloods I said to avoid earlier in the week, I'm sticking to it once again. It's Kentucky, Kansas, and UConn. UConn's won back-to-back national titles. They're 94th defensive efficiency. They were outside the top 100 for a good part of the season. Their defense has just not been there. I know they're a scary team. They do play slow, but they're not going to get a three-peat this year. So I would avoid them if you're looking to make some noise. Kentucky, who is a 3 seed, as far as high seeds to avoid, they're so bipolar. They had a 10-point lead against Oklahoma a few games ago in the SEC and almost blew that game. They could beat anybody, no doubt about it. They could beat anybody, but they could also probably lose to anybody on a given Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, or Sunday. And they're not going to win 6 in a row with that bipolar style of play. And they're only 56th on defense. So I'd be very careful with Kentucky. If you're looking for a top 3 seed to avoid, Kentucky would be the one. And the other one I mentioned is Kansas. They're only a 7th seed. UConn's an 8 seed, so it's not like I'm going out on a limb there. But they have also, those 3 teams, by the way, Prez, I think have won 7 of the last 16 national titles, almost half of them. I don't think any of those 3 win it this year.